Oh, hey guys. Me and Charles here were just grading your early European explorers test and just talking about how much we're going to miss talking about those European explorers like Cabeza de Vaca and De Soto. Those are some fun times. But we're moving on. You want to tell them what we're talking about next, Charles? Yes, I do. Hi guys, I love you and I miss you and I'm going to do a little dance. No, you're not, Charles. Tell them what we're talking about. Okay, missions and settlements. Okay, so here's why that's important. So LaSalle, his expedition alerted Spain to the France interest in Texas, okay? So they didn't like that. So the Spanish decided that if they were going to keep Texas, they had to occupy, which means to put like people and settlers there. So Spanish missions and settlements provided a stronger hold on Texas than the French trading. Because remember, France wants to be business partners, and Spain cares a little bit about that, but they also care about land and converting the natives to Catholicism. Well said, Charles. So this impacts Texas in a lot of ways today. A lot of the early settlements eventually become Texas cities that we still have the names of. For example, San Marcos, San Augustine, Santa Elena, San Antonio. These all come from the names of early Spanish missions. So what we're going to go into is kind of talking a little bit more about the early Spanish presence in Texas and how they reacted with the French. And again, eventually the French sort of get pushed out, and it's the Spanish who kind of win the rivalry. Because remember, history is full of people fighting rivalry after rivalry after rivalry. You're hurting my pals. Sorry, my bad. So the as part of the settlement of New Spain, which is what Texas was called, New Spain, friars in 1682 found the very first permanent settlement of Europeans in Texas, which was the mission of Corpus Christi de la Isleta, okay? And Charles, tell them a little bit more about that. Okay, so it's located near present-day El Paso. And just to clarify, a mission is like a little Spanish, it's a Spanish settlement, like a little city, okay? Anyway, so most Spanish activity was in the eastern part of Texas, near what the French had was Louisiana, modern-day Louisiana. Anyway, but then the Spanish got scared that maybe LaSalle would come, so they started to really try to establish their colony so they could say they were there first. In fact, they built missions and even military outposts. You want to write down here what the military outpost is? Oh, you're going to use my butt as an eraser, aren't you? Yes, I am, Charles. Yes, I am. Anyway, so hopefully you wrote that down. But like Charles was, don't do that. That's so uncomfortable. Sorry, my bad, dude. That's what I got to do. All right, so like Charles was saying, some of these military outposts that the French built, that the Spanish, not the French, the Spanish built in response to French presence were called presidios, okay? Presidios are these military outposts that the Spanish had built largely in conjunction with Native Americans. So Spanish officials find out about LaSalle's fort, remember Fort St. Louis? And soon after it was built. So then they immediately send these Spanish troops down there with an expedition an expedition led by this dude whose name is Alonso de Leon, okay? So they send Alonso de Leon to go and explore and see, and essentially to destroy poor LaSalle's fort in St. Louis. But here's what's crazy. By the time Alonso gets there to try to destroy the fort, it's already deserted and gone. Because remember, LaSalle's fort failed because the people were not taken care of. They were attacked by Native Americans. So by the time they reached the fort in April of 1689, that Fort St. Louis is already destroyed and in ruins. So talk about anticlimactic. Anyway, so then De Leon, and his troops kind of go to the northeast, kind of near the Colorado River, sort of near where we live today. And they met a large group of Texans who they call the Hassini people. I want to say this part. Okay. So the Hassini people, they called them the Tejas, which is a word, the word meaning friend. That's where we get our state name from. Okay, I don't want to say anymore. I just wanted to say that because it's important. Okay, fine. kind of an attention hog. But yeah, so Tejas is what they kind of called these people, which is where we get, like Charles said, the name Texas from. So Angelina was the name they gave, not her actual name, but a name they gave this Hassini woman who served like as a guide and interpreter for them. And then Father Damien Massenet was a Catholic Church official who was on this expedition along with De Leon. Because remember, they try to destroy the fort. Turns out the fort's already destroyed, so they're coming back, and they're leading troops to different directions to see anything else they can find, and this is when they run into the Hassini people. Anyway, so finally when the expedition goes back to Mexico, Massenet, this Catholic Church official who was with De Leon, asks for permission to establish a mission, I should say, among what became known as the Tejas people. So they agree, and these friars set out to East Texas and established the very first mission in East Texas. So East Texas is, kind of near, I guess, like modern day, sort of, what am I trying to say? Like modern day, the border between Texas and Louisiana. So anyway, and this first mission in East Texas was called San Francisco de los Tejas. So St. Francis of the Texans, literally translated. So let me use Charles as an eraser again real quick. Sorry, buddy. And here's the name of that first mission that's established in East Texas is San Francisco de los Tejas. Okay. Anyway, so now we've already learned about two important missions. The mission of Corpus Christi de la Isleta, which is the first European settlement, and then the San Francisco de los Tejas, which is the first settlement in the eastern part of Texas. So eventually, despite these promising beginnings, the mission of San Francisco de los Tejas unfortunately fails because of drought, and a lot of the Tejas people realized that the Spanish only really wanted to convert them to Christianity and use them as slaves, so they weren't really into that. So drought comes, there's a lot of animosity between the Tejas people and the Spaniards, and the mission fails. Well, from 1693 to 1714, the Spanish didn't really make an effort to settle in Texas anymore. However, there was a really flourishing mission called the Mission of San Juan Bautista. Okay, now this is known as the mother of Texas missions because it was located along the Rio Grande River. The Indians who lived there, had a really good relationship with the Spaniards who lived there, and so all in all, it was a great time. And again, it's known as the mother of the Texas missions because it's the one that really kind of kept itself together. And again, this is how I spell it: Mission San Juan Bautista. So it was built near present-day Eagle Pass in 1699, really close to the Rio Grande, and was the base for a lot of expeditions. The mission provided grain, cattle, horses to a lot of missionaries, one of which being Francisco Hidalgo, who was a friar, or a Spanish religious leader, who had known the Tejas and had kept asking permission to start another mission among them, but the Spanish officials kept saying no. So remember, even though there are Texans over here establishing missions and doing their stuff, and largely in part the Spanish really still control them. So anyway, then come again the French, and they try to start establishing missions near the Mississippi River. So they're more like in modern day Louisiana. So they're kind of out of Texas, but they're still close because remember, Texas and Louisiana touch. Obviously, those state borders don't exist, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of where they were land-wise. So they didn't really want to take territory, didn't want to convert Native Americans. They just wanted some economic resources, some trading. So eventually the Spanish realized that they're not a huge threat, and the French governor appoints someone named Louis Saint-Denis to negotiate with the Spanish officials, and they negotiate successfully, and it's decided that this Frenchman will actually help the Spanish in establishing another mission for the Spanish. And so what we're going to go into now is essentially a story of missions being established, what life was like at the missions, some of the most important ones, and then eventually we'll get to the Alamo, coming soon to a classroom near you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to take notes, and I'll see you in class next time. Bye! Bye, Felicia.